Good morning. Today's the 10th of March, and that makes it day 22, so we're one day over 3 weeks, and this is nice and early in the morning. So, yeah, welcome. I have to say I've been feeling pretty good. The marijuana quit yesterday. Yesterday I had a moment during the day. I had a friend come over to come work out with me, and he still smokes. And normally he'll bring over his little vape pen. And after we got done with the workout, I was sitting there on the chair chatting with him, and I saw the vape pen on the ottoman, and I was like, oh, in my head, I was like, oh, hey, it would be kind of nice to get high and watch the movie that we were planning to watch later, which turned out was Monster Hunter. And if any one of you are interested in watching it, I highly recommend. It's got some of that Chinese nonsense where there's no blood, and they've kind of it looks like they've sort of censored out some of the gorier stuff, but then weirdly they have other stuff that's more gory, which was confusing. It was a little confusing. But it's a Milla Jovovich action movie. It's fairly silly, but it's a good watch. And if you can get it in surround, get the speakers turned right up, it's actually pretty cool. Anyway, thinking about watching the movie High actually got me a little bit excited, and then all of a sudden I realized, I was like, okay, well, I'm thinking about smoking. Why am I thinking about smoking? And I took a step back and looked at the bigger context of the way that I was feeling and why I was thinking this. And it was because I was already feeling good. I was actually feeling good. I was having social contact with a mate. I had worked out. We just got done eating. We were planning to do something social and enjoyable together that was sort of an escapist activity. And my urge to jump on marijuana wasn't coming from necessarily a craving place, as more of a place of, oh, I'm already feeling good. And I think it's that brain anticipating the reward, and telling me, hey, you know what would make this even better? That sort of thing. And so I was able to just push the thought away, and I didn't have to struggle at all. I didn't look at the pen for the rest of the night. I think he used it a couple of times during the evening, but in general he was pretty respectful about the fact that I have quit. And yeah, so it was nice. It was nice to sort of recognize. It was concerning at first, because I was like, oh no, I'm having a craving. But then it was nice to realize that I was having the craving, or I was having the thought, because I was already feeling good and I was settled and relaxed, and it was sort of it was a response to a bigger feeling, and so that was good. And then the same thing happened with the video games, because the movie is Monster Hunter. It's based on a fairly popular video game called Monster Hunter, and he was talking about his experience playing the game while the movie was playing, with the different creatures that came in and stuff. And I had that same sort of thought. I was like, oh, it'd be cool to play this game with him online, like, hanging out and whatever. And then I realized that I was thinking that because my brain was like, hey, you know what would make this whole thing even better? Video games. Get some of that dopamine in you, bruh. So yeah, so it was good to two things. It was good to notice and to realize that I was feeling good about the situation that I was in. Like, I was actually feeling good sitting down with a friend, just hanging out, and it was enough. That was enough to make me feel good by itself. That was good to recognize. And then the other thing that it was good to not have an automatic, like a physical automatic reach out, like feeling like if I just reached out and grabbed it and put it in my mouth, like that was a normal response, or like going downstairs and starting to download, on a video game or whatever. I don't have that so much anymore, as the cravings have lessened to an extent, or have disconnected to an extent, to where when I feel them, or the urges, or the ideas, that they pop up and I'm able to see them in the abstract. I'm able to actually examine them, and then realize where they're coming from and put them away, knowing that they're automatic and not useful. And I think for people who are quitting, that's an important thing. It's an important step to recognize when you're able to see the urge, see the thought come up, and examine it in the abstract, examine it separate from yourself, and go, okay, why am I thinking this? And then when you realize that it's coming from a place that's not useful, you can just trash it and let it go, rather than beating yourself up because you had a thought or a feeling or an urge. And I think that the better you get at that, the more it becomes sort of automatic when you have those types of thoughts or feelings, and that's what allows you to go back amongst friends who use drugs or who play video games or whatever it is that you're quitting, that you can go out into the world and you don't have to worry about being tempted to the point where you fold. You can be tempted and it's not a big deal. And I think that's a useful place to be, and it's nice to recognize that. So yeah, excuse me. Completely off topic, but I've noticed an increase in news articles talking about the news media starting to collapse. The same news media that spent the last 4 years crapping on the president, and as an immigrant as an immigrant to the United States, I felt that what they were doing, whether you liked the former president or not, I felt that what they were doing was biased, and it was well poisoning. They were conditioning people to expect and to listen to and want deeply divisive, deeply partisan, deeply toxic, and a lot of it deeply misinformed or flawed news information. And now that president is no longer here, and he's a private citizen, those news empires that got built on the back of the misinformation that was going on at the time are collapsing. And as I had said prior to the former president leaving office, and as I think a few people with half a brain had said, they won't last long without the eyes on those deeply divisive news stories. If they don't have anything toxic to write, people won't have any reason to visit them or go to them. And I'm not going to get deep into the politics of this, but I think what is there is a useful lesson in that if your activities are poisoning the well that you need to draw on, and for them it's the trust of the public, and it's the eyes and the ears of the public. That's how they make their money, is by people listening to them or reading them. If you poison that well by making it constantly one thing, and those people rely on you for only one thing, and that one thing is divisive and it feels like gotcha journalism, or such and such owns Donald Trump, or such and such gets owned by whoever, then and an example of this would be in the workplace. If you were acting like this with your workmates all the time, and then eventually you get a new boss and your workmates are like, actually the thing that you're doing is kind of poisonous, and you're not able to reach them with the same sort of thing, then you should expect to get laid off. You should expect to lose your job. You should expect to lose the market for what you've done, because what you've done is not build a strong foundation. And tying this to quitting drugs, I think the way that we do something like this when it comes to quitting drugs is you put too many eggs in the win basket, in the success basket, and you don't plan for failures or hurdles along the way. And that's what it looks like these companies haven't done. They didn't plan for the fact that the former president would be the former president, and they didn't have a model for pushing journalism forward. And I think if you can take that little tidbit of information and apply it to quitting, not having a plan for running into struggles, like for example, maybe you have a friend who's who uses, and suddenly you find yourself in closer contact with them and you see them using all the time, and it's that peer influence. If you don't have a plan for dealing with that, or you don't make a plan for dealing with that, then you will most likely fall back into those habits, because you haven't built a good foundation with which you can withstand the changes that come. So yeah, it's definitely a tenuous link. So I'm reaching a little bit here, but it just occurred to me this morning when I saw all that news about these companies that are laying off all these people, that that's kind of the way. If you don't make a plan for eventualities, or for things happening in your job and in your workplace, then you kind of deserve to be let go and laid off and suffer the consequences. And the same thing goes for quitting. If you don't make a plan for dealing with struggles or changes in the way things are, then you will likely deserve to fail. Anyway, tenuous connection, as I said, but that's been day 22, and yeah, that's it for me. Ka kite.